As we go through these 7 mistakes, you can follow along in your learning guide and you'll also see them numbered on the screen. What I want you to be thinking about as a leader today is which of these 7 hits home most for you, because at the end of the lesson, you'll have to respond to a prompt about that. I also have my colleagues, and they're going to share their perspectives on some of these from a leadership standpoint. We've got Valere CEO Guy Pistoni, President Alex Turgeon, Director of Product Brian Granados. All right, guys. So, mistake number 1 is rollout is lacking a clear business purpose. We're seeing this really across every industry right now where the AI use case gets chosen before readiness is even assessed. So, the founder or the executive, they start with the what to build instead of why they're building it.
Nothing sticks about a clear business use case. A lot of leaders have FOMO, fear of missing out. They get an idea in the shower and they think, let's do AI with XYZ. So immediately they go looking for a solution without a problem. The rationale isn't, we need to fix our supply chain. The rationale is our competitors are doing AI, so we need to do AI. So what happens? They start with the tool or a vendor platform, something off the shelf, run around the office trying to find a place to stick it. It's backwards. If you don't know exactly what problem you're trying to solve with AI, the project will lack direction.
So, if a leader feels like they're in a rush to get on this AI train, they're like, let's try some AI tool, let's put it in a department and get a pilot going. We'll iron out all the bugs later. What you're saying, Alex, is that this is a mistake because your initiative is not addressing a clearly defined business problem.
I'd say yes, and it needs a measurable outcome. A big mistake leaders make is confusing outcomes and features.
Okay, give me an example.
A feature is what the technology does. For example, automating an invoice processing is a feature. Reducing invoice processing costs by 40%, however, is an outcome. Focusing on outcomes forces you to answer the most important question, why are we even doing this?
And so, Brian, when you were telling me a story about a startup founder that you knew in the healthcare space, and I want you to share that story of what happened to this guy because I think it's a great example of what we're talking about here. But basically, similar to what Alex just said, he was working backwards. He had this bright idea that he was going to make an app for doctors to help them with their patient care. He ends up building the whole app, which, from what I understand, was great. It was a high quality solution, but then, Brian, what happened?
He wanted to modernize and transform how doctors, use software, for like their patient care. But it's like I think he just got caught in the hype, right, of having something amazing to sell. An agency, they build him like a pixel perfect app. It was beautiful, great transitions, modern, right? The admin panel had everything a doctor could need. But when he started pitching it to hospitals, none of the doctors really thought of it useful, right? They were still using software from like the 90s or the 2000s. And he was really frustrated at that, because he's like, but I have, like a modern version of this stuff and it's so much better. And your application could be incredible. It could be beautiful, but is it really answering a problem or are you just trying to provide a solution in a vacuum without actually having done the investigative work, the research, right, to see what your ideal audience is, what they really need, if it even fits the market.
And look, I get why leaders would want to bypass that diagnostic step. Number one, there's so much pressure on them to show AI progress yesterday. And number two, leaders, especially ones that are experienced, they're used to making calls from their gut. They know their operation really well. And so their instinct about what AI feature they want to put in, it feels like it's sufficient enough.
Yes, trusting your gut is how good ideas are born. But speaking as a CEO to other leaders, if you don't slow down to then translate that into that instinct into something measurable, something that's objective, you're going to end up with either a system that works very efficiently, but it doesn't actually move revenue. You may automate the wrong step or even scale a process that wasn't even the bottleneck in the first place.
So the point here is that we want to avoid that vague brainstorming, and instead we want to adopt solutions that we can measure against a specific business problem. Looking ahead, the solution that we've prepared for you in the course to avoid making this mistake is AI assessment and planning. That lesson is coming up. In there, we're going to show you how you can sit down with your employees, what questions you should be asking them so that you can pinpoint the exact spots in your business business where maybe you're wasting time or you're losing money. And that's when you'll learn how to pick which AI use case that you're going to invest in first, based on its ability to solve those specific problems. So we're looking at highest ROI for the lowest level of effort in that module. All right. So the next mistake is tech outweighing cultural readiness. So this one is all about how AI adoption, it's just as much about managing people and changing your culture as it is about the tech itself.
There's something called the 95-5 rule. Successful enterprise AI adoption, from what we see, is 95% organizational readiness and execution. And only 5% of the time is it really technology. Most leaders assume AI is purely a software challenge. They think if they buy the best model, think the 5%, the results will follow. But the reality is the technology is often the straightforward part. The hard part is the 95%. It's the human hurdles required to make the technology actually work.
And by the way, just to be clear, you called it a 5% rule. I have heard similar quotes. One was 90-10, I've heard 70-30, even 60-40. The numbers themselves don't matter. Those are just unscientific estimates, but it's more of a metaphor, right? It's making a point, which is that technology all by itself cannot guarantee success. Technology is part of the equation, but what we are learning from companies whose AI initiatives failed is the soft factors, the people, processes, culture. If those things are not ready, that's what's going to break their AI transformation.
Right. You could have the nearly perfect AI model, right? 80-20, 95-5. The main part is if your culture isn't ready, meaning your people are hesitant or resistant to a new process, management, even though you're full of really, really smart business people, you may not fully grasp what AI can, and more importantly, what it can't do. You don't have an employee upskilling and education initiative, then you likely won't be successful, right? As good as the product is, it's only as good as the people's ability to use it. So we've seen countless failed projects which show that investing in people, skills, culture determines success far more than choosing any particular technology.
Culture also just crushes technology and strategy. That's not to underestimate the importance of tech and strategy itself, but the best tech won't even matter in an organization whose culture and people aren't on board and bought in. In AI terms, it means that like a workplace that encourages learning, experimentation, acceptance of AI, they're going to thrive. If employees are scared of job loss and they're just not bought into the process and just shown AI, they're going to resist this. Successful transformations invest heavily in change management, training, stakeholder buy-in, and rethinking workflows from the ground up.
I just want to emphasize that success, if you look at this graphic here, success requires both sides, the technology itself, but also the human soft factors. So I don't want you to interpret this as that the technology doesn't matter. Of course, you need clean data and you need the right systems, but countless failed projects are showing us that changing people is harder. So you've got to invest in things like AI education and incentives and culture. That has to be a part of your AI transformation plan. We saw this in a global survey from McKinsey. 2/3 of leaders never scaled AI beyond pilots. And the reasons cited in that study were issues like unclear business cases, siloed teams, and change resistance. There was another study that found something similar. It was cultural resistance and siloed mindsets. Those were among the top blockers of AI value. In that one, 60% of companies were failing to get results from AI initiatives. So again, it's pointing to those people issues despite the tech that was available to them. Okay, number 3 is it's less of a mistake because leaders are definitely not doing this intentionally, but it's more of a blocker, which is that there's a global shortage of experienced AI. So it's difficulty hiring AI pros who can do this work. Your data scientists, your machine learning engineers. Guy, I'm curious as a CEO, what's your take?
No, there's absolutely a talent gap, and a big risk is that leaders don't think they need to hire AI pros. They can't just use vibe coders. The belief that non-technical staff can build production-ready, semi-complex systems by just prompting is just a fallacy. LLMs aren't at this level yet where they can really understand things systematically and solve some of these problems. Without the right skills, these projects projects are going to stall and probably deliver poor results. AI development requires a highly specialized team. You need data scientists who can interpret the data. You need machine learning engineers who can build and train on these models. AI researchers that are staying on top of these things, that are actually testing these in-house. These experts are in high demand. They are hard to come by. If you're an organization and you can't afford necessarily AI experts, there are a lot of tools that can be a good fit and can get you a lot of the way to actually solving these problems. The difference is you have to really think about how you redesign your process around these new AI tools. These AI tools may not solve the full problem, they may just solve the half problem. So then how do you provide the manual process layer that around what the AI and the tool can actually do?
And one of the best answers to that layer that you're talking about, helping to avoid even needing that much internal talent, would be AI orchestration, which we are going to cover later in the course. Moving on to number 4 is unexpected costs that consume the budget. In-house AI projects are notorious for going over budget and also past the deadline, but the initial cost estimates, they often overlook some of the hidden complexities that you're going to run into. And I wanted to call a few of those out. There's a lot of them, but one of them being ongoing maintenance that's required. Think about the software that you bought earlier in your leadership career before AI, the traditional software. It behaved like a fixed asset. You buy it, you install it, and it performs just fine for years. AI is different. They are trained on data. Their performance depends on the patterns in that data. So once your new AI system goes out into the real world to do whatever you intended it to do for your business, that world is going to change. The data is evolving, the people are behaving differently. In other words, over time, the skills that it learned yesterday are no longer a match today. So its performance can degrade, that gradual drop in accuracy. We call that model drift. Its thinking gets weird, or worse, it can produce something that's really harmful to your business. And then in some cases, it can train itself on its own bad work. So as a leader of an AI native organization, you are committing to this ongoing process of oversight. Monitor, retrain, calibrate these systems. So if you budget for AI like it's a one-time software fee, you'll end up underestimating what it actually takes to keep it working. This is a living system. It's not a finished product. Another hidden complexity is infrastructure and computational power. So the compute and the storage that's required to train a sophisticated AI model from scratch is immense. And that can frequently lead to some very unexpected cloud computing bills, for example. There is persistent memory. And again, we're talking about the hidden complexities that end up adding more cost. Persistent memory, when your AI actually tries to execute a long, complex task, it does not have infinite memory. AI operates with a short-term working memory. We call that a context window. So in long conversations or more complex tasks, that window can get exceeded, which means the AI basically runs out of space. It starts forgetting part of the instructions that you taught it earlier. Think about this like if you handed somebody a legal pad, but they're only allowed to work with 10 pages to do their work. And as soon as they need page 11, they've got to rip out page 1 and throw it away to make more room. The problem is, what if page 1 contained your business rules or your safety protocols? Then when the AI starts to give you poor results, it's because it has lost that important context from earlier. If you're in a sensitive sector like healthcare or finance or education, working with children, something that's really highly regulated, you cannot afford that risk. So you need a budget for an orchestration layer, which we're going to also cover later on in the course. It's a separate layer outside of the AI itself, which can act as the system's persistent memory. Looking ahead, some solutions to avoid unexpected AI costs. Throughout the course, we're going to give you several so that you don't make this same mistake. In AI assessment and planning, we're going to make sure that, first of all, you're investing in the right use case that will return that investment. And we're going to talk about taking the systems that you already own and configuring them with AI to work together, which is quite cost effective. Working with vendors can ease the cost structure too. Instead of a massive upfront investment in building something from scratch, you can typically look at more predictable recurring fees with a vendor because their pricing structure already absorbs some of those heavy costs that otherwise you would have had to shoulder yourself. You're getting their specialized talent, their continuous maintenance, and their infrastructure. Also, built-in governance and risk mitigation. They build in an AI trust layer, so masking your sensitive PII to keep your data private, guaranteeing audit trails, which is logging exactly what prompt was sent, what business rules were applied, and who approved that output. Number 5 is point solutions fixing isolated problems. I want to give you 3 terms that you need to be familiar with as an AI leader, and I've also linked below this video a couple of YouTube videos that would be excellent for you to check out. And it's about the difference between point solutions, application solutions, and system solutions. Now, the videos that are linked below feature Guy, and he does a really nice job of teaching you as a CEO or a senior level leader how to tell the difference between these 3 terms. So check those out whenever you have time. But for now, here's the quick rundown. Point solutions are first. A point solution is a quick win that treats exactly one symptom. So I like to think about this like taking a painkiller. It's fast, it's cheap, it's highly accessible for immediate use, but it's only designed to do one thing: fix a headache, right? So it's operating completely in a vacuum. Where a lot of companies are making mistakes is they're focusing only on point solutions, isolated tools. So for example, a company might implement a chatbot that answers FAQs or an app that's predicting product demand, one single thing. It's doing it well, but it's severely limited in its scope and it's not really affecting the rest of the business. Then we have category number 2, which is application solution. It's a step up from a point solution. It offers broader functionality. So think about this like if you go to physical therapy. Physical therapy is a coordinated set of exercises. You've got strength, you've got balance, you've got flexibility. So you're not just targeting one symptom like that painkiller did, you're integrating multiple practices together into a plan working toward a bigger outcome, which in this case would be, restoring mobility for that person. Similarly, an AI application level solution coordinates multiple tasks within a common function or department. So it is giving you a little bit higher ROI within that specific operational area. For example, a sales application that's using AI for lead scoring and email personalization and forecasting. Separate tasks, but they're all working together toward one goal. Another example would be an AI-powered accounting tool that's also automatically scanning receipts and categorizing expenses and even ensuring some compliance rules about spending. So just like the physical therapy example, it is using multiple AI-driven tasks working together better than a point solution, but it's still limited. It's not an organizational overhaul, okay? The third one, though, is system solutions. This is where AI is integrated across the entire company. You have end-to-end processes that are all optimized into an entire comprehensive system. So it's not a painkiller, it's not physical therapy, it's the whole hospital. The doctors, the nurses, and all the equipment that's interconnected across all the different floors to provide some comprehensive care for that patient. Unlike point and application solutions, which remain siloed, totally disconnected from the broader business, a system solution is what you're aiming for. That's what AI native companies are looking to do. Sure, right now you might pilot something small at first, but the mindset is that gradually you're going to mature until you clean the slate completely and redesign all your human workflows from the ground up. The reason why we want to redesign workflows is set so that you're giving your humans and your AI brand new jobs based on what each of them does best, okay? So this is going to create a huge competitive advantage for you. It will have feedback loops built in. The system will continuously learn from itself, and you're going to be able to have a network of independent, autonomous agents that are all collaborating together to do things for you without constant human input. So getting back to the mistake that we can learn from, a lot of leaders don't realize that if we just stop at point and application solutions, we're missing the whole point of what AI can do. AI was literally designed to analyze and synthesize, make connections, create synergy much better than a human can. It can coordinate tasks and optimize decisions and operate with a level of intelligence that a human team just couldn't match. So its true potential is only realized whenever we build a system level solution. Now, looking ahead, we're going to be covering AI system design throughout the course, specifically when we talk about orchestration and data readiness and proprietary qualitative knowledge. And that brings us to mistake number 6, which is they are not integrating their proprietary knowledge. Here's where so many companies fail. They completely ignore this capability. When leaders just buy an off-the-shelf model, it's trained on public data. So AI can only generate the same shallow generic outputs that it's giving to their competitors. There's really no differentiation. Even worse, as these companies are using public AI tools to do their daily work, not only are they failing, but they're leaking their internal secrets and documents. All of their unique enterprise value is going to the model providers. So looking ahead, solutions to avoid mistake number 6, this is why we dedicate a whole module of this course to proprietary qualitative knowledge bases, or PQKB for short. In the past, data meant numbers in spreadsheets, right? The things that are in rows and columns that you can count and sort. It's like we only really cared about structured data. But now AI has totally changed the definition of data because it has this unprecedented ability to take unstructured data like images and pictures and written text and audio, and it can remix that in all sorts of different ways, synthesize it, connect the dots, and use it in order to create something new. And what that means is now you can finally capture the hidden layer of intelligence that actually runs your business, the institutional knowledge that is locked up in your employees' heads, their experiences as humans, the things that people know how to do, but they never documented. So we're going to show you how you can capture that into a machine readable format that you can then inject into your AI system. So you're going to be creating what we call ungoogleable wisdom and feed that to your AI. Now, this can work inside of your product or your service, or it can be something that you use operationally in the background, but it will create a competitive moat because your competitors cannot copy that. And number 7 is that the data is unprepared or it's fragmented. This is really the kind of the unsexy work that kills budgets. An AI model is only as smart as the fuel that you feed it. And right now, most corporate data is a messy, unstructured, kind of a garbage fire, really. There was a study in 2024 from McKinsey that found that 67% of AI projects fail simply due to their data readiness issues. Furthermore, there was some other research that said that 70% of an AI project's time is spent just cleaning, organizing, and preparing the data. And so you cannot move forward with AI until you have examined the data that's running your business. You have to put that into some kind of an order because AI is going to learn from and it's going to build on whatever data you give it. It can analyze it, it can shine a light on it, and it can do that extremely fast. But if your data is poorly organized, AI is not going to fix it for you. It's just going to amplify it and make it into an even bigger mess, which completely wastes your investment. So data readiness, huge trend right now. We've devoted an entire section in this course called Data Readiness for Leaders. We want to help you with those steps, and we've given you a lot of different handouts and resources in that lesson to show you how to do that. And that's coming up as well. All right, so those are our failure modes. I want to bring back to Alex and Guy before we wrap up. What would you say, guys, can we learn from companies whose AI initiatives have failed?
Well, what can we learn from companies who AI initiatives have failed? You end up with a portfolio of stalled products and no victory speech. In my opinion, it goes back to the 300 plus products, apps, solutions that we've built and deployed, right? I tell everyone that we work with and we partner with is it's 20% the product, 80% the execution. The folks that are doing it right, they're prioritizing the why over the what. Just because they could doesn't mean that they should. Just because you have technology, 20% of it, just because you have the product, the solution, it's 80% in terms of how you're using it, how you execute and go out to the market, whether it's internal or external, aligning to their business goals and objectives.
Are you just throwing ideas at the wall to see what sticks, or are you building a sovereign, scalable business solution? And that's what this course will teach you step by step.
All right, well, now that your eyes are open to how many businesses have made fatal errors with AI, the good news is you're going to completely avoid those. So throughout the rest of this course, we're going to ensure that this does not happen to your business. Before you move on to the next section, a couple of reminders about the resources that you're going to get in this course and what counts as completion. For every module, you can download the accompanying learning guide, which has summaries of everything that we covered in the lesson, as well as some bonus resources and some worksheets to help you with that topic. All of those worksheets are optional. They're for you to go and explore at your leisure. The part that's mandatory is the discussion activity that we're about to do right now. At the end of the course, in order for us to mark you as complete and give you your certificate, you must complete each of the discussion activities, okay? So here's your first one. I want you to find the comment button and leave a comment below this video. I'm curious which item from our list today hit closest to home for you. So I've given you a two-part question. Part A is, of the AI adoption mistakes we just covered, the one I'm most eager to avoid is, and then part B, this mistake stands out as a potential risk in my organization because. All right, so just finish those two sentences in the comment and hit post. And up next, I'll see you in our next section called AI Assessment and Planning Before You Pilot.